So welcome everybody to Staples 8th to ninth grade transition night. I'm James D'Amico, principal of Staples High School, and this is one of my most favorite nights of the year because of the positive energy, the confusion, and the sense of wonder that you will walk through the building with. The kids are fine, especially if they're Coleytown kids. They've been here, they're experts now. I want to introduce just a couple of people before we get started with the program this evening. Our assistant principals are up in the cafeteria right now trying to make sense out of the chaos that is, almost 400 eighth graders descending in one place and trying to organize themselves by homeroom. But they do a fantastic job. And for those of you that are veteran Staples parents, you know that our assistant principals play an extraordinarily important role in the lives of Staples students because they follow every class through their 4 years at Staples High School. So that way we can make great relationships with families and with students through their high school journey. Also here this evening, I won't introduce all of the counselors, but we have Mr. Bill Plunkett, who is our Director of Guidance, who will take you through most of the introductory program tonight. And someone else who I know is not in the room, but deserves a huge round of applause, is Mr. Horace Lewis, who is our head custodian. Please, the custodians. If you've heard me speak before, you've heard me say we have over 200,000 square feet of building here at Staples High School, and every morning when we walk in, it looks pristine, and it's a fantastic environment to learn and a wonderful place to work. So thank you to Mr. Lewis and the custodians. We also have in the audience tonight, I think he's up in the back over there, Officer Ed Wooldridge, who is our school resource officer this year. Officer Ed has been a fantastic addition to Staples, and we are thrilled to have him not only for the safety and security resources that he gives us, but because of the great relationships that he builds with our students each and every day to make Staples that much more of a personal place. So, you're here tonight because in the Westport Public Schools, whether we have 7 schools, 8 schools, 15 schools, all roads lead to Staples High School. And we are happy that that is the case because we're able to offer some really phenomenal academic programs and elective offerings, extracurricular activities, athletic programs. Truly, I think if you're not a veteran Staples parent, after you leave here this evening, you will wish that you could once again be transported back to all the great things about being 14 years old and be a Staples High School student. I'll be very brief because the guidance counselors have a lot of information to take you through in terms of course registration, because that is really the step that we're in right now and making sure that our 8th graders begin their high school journey successfully. But one visual that I'd like you to keep in mind this evening is this one. We talk a lot in this school about balance. It's no mystery that Staples High School is a very competitive place. Students hold themselves to high expectations, their parents hold them to high expectations, and their teachers hold them to high expectations. But you don't have to do everything all at once because their balance is not just a two-way street, it's a multi-way street. So as you are traveling later on this evening into all of the different academic programs and listening to the teachers talk about curriculum and rigor and leveling, keep in mind that academics are a big piece, but they're not the only piece of what balance means to a high school student. More importantly than anything else, as the principal, I can tell you my goal is to make sure that students leave here with a plan, knowing what they want to do and who they want to be when they leave here, and that the bumper sticker is the least important part of that equation. That we want to make sure that they know who they are as individuals and know how to succeed at whatever it is that they want to do. So, just some nitty-gritty, the graduation requirements, and you see the asterisks there, right? Pending Board of Education approval. You may have seen at recent Board of Ed meetings, they are changing in the state of Connecticut, but these next 2 slides, so this one and the next one, I don't want you to stress too much about. Your students are coming in here in 9th grade, and 9th grade is really about exploring the academic areas and taking care of those prerequisites and things that will set the foundation for where they're going to go in high school. So as you go to those presentations tonight, thinking about there are electives available to our freshmen, but next year is really about setting that foundation for a successful academic career. And as you're going through and talking about the graduation required courses, primarily those academic courses, we've separated them from you, to prep you a little bit for that, and also to make sure that they understand what some of those other choices are. Because again, we don't want students to feel limited. We want them, electives are a very important part of our program, and so they've talked a lot with their team teachers in the 8th grade and their 8th grade counselors about those offerings. So you're going to concentrate on that stuff, and we're going to show them the other great parts about coming to Staples High School tonight. But they'll be escorted around the building by the academic core teachers, as well as some of our student ambassadors who have come out tonight to ask all those questions that they may want to ask without you standing around. And so we want to help them on that road to independence. The other thing is, just, because we actually got a lot of questions from the middle schools over the last few weeks, I really don't want you to worry about this one tonight. Everybody starts at a 0 GPA tonight, and that stays true until September, so don't worry about that too much. But we did make some changes last year to our GPA system. Our current freshmen are the first class that has the new calculations for GPA, and that is staying exactly the same for at least the next 4 years, because although we embrace change and like change and try to always do things better, we try not to do it all that often. So any rumors you've heard that there's yet another brand new GPA system, not true. All this information is in the handbooks that are available online. But again, tonight what we really want you to concentrate on is thinking about who your student is, what challenges they want to have next year, what places do they think they can feel successful, and set them up to make really good choices. And we have one of the best guidance staffs in the business to help them through guiding those choices. So with that, I'm going to get off the stage and introduce Mr. Plunkett.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Bill Plunkett. I'm the Director of Guidance here at Staples. There are 10 counselors plus myself, as well as our support staff, who are looking forward to getting to know your children over the coming months. There are 3 counselors who are here tonight who are going to speak to you various parts of the process and what you may want to be thinking about at this point. And I'm just going to give a little bit of an overview of the course selection and scheduling process to come. So at this point, all 8th grade students have taken part in a developmental guidance lesson through their 8th grade counseling curriculum with their middle school counselor, and that's really meant to introduce them to the program of studies and the various options that exist for them as 9th graders here at Staples. We know that it's a lot of information for them to absorb all at once, and we do have a lot of information up on our website, including the program of studies that we encourage students and parents to take a look at. You can view, you can download it, and we know that many of the answers to many of your questions are going to be located right there. We've also created an informational guide specifically for 8th grade students and parents that breaks down the options that are available to students in 9th grade. This is part of the packet that you received on the way in the door. 8th grade core teachers have now entered course level recommendations for each of their students. A message was sent out last week that you should have received that details how to view those recommendations in PowerSchool. The next step is really between now and Sunday, February 10th. All 8th graders must pre-register for courses in PowerSchool. We've sent home instructions to follow, as well as a step-by-step video tutorial, which can also be found on the Staples website, and students can see their counselor for individual support if they need it. Once they have pre-registered, students need to print their course requests, have their parents sign off on what they've selected, and note any changes to that program, including any overrides they'd like to submit. Then, they're going to be returning a signed printout to the middle school counselor or team leader, as you'll be directed by the middle school staff. From there, throughout the rest of February and March, all 8th graders will be meeting one-on-one with their middle school counselors. Students do not need to schedule an appointment with them. If you have a high school student, that is an expectation. They should be scheduling their own appointments. The middle school counselors work with the teachers and pull the students from their classes, as they do every year, and it really works smoothly, and students receive great support along the way. After February 10th, know that students will no longer have access to change their course requests themselves in PowerSchool. Any changes after Sunday would have to be made by the middle school counselor. If your student is planning to override a teacher's recommendation, the student must select the recommended course online when they pre-register. There is an override form that's required to be completed, and that student should bring a signed copy of that form to the meeting with the counselor. The counselor will then be the one who makes the adjustment to their course requests online. Any changes after the initial meeting that's held with the counselor, as well as any override forms, must be turned in by Friday, March 29th. This is a firm deadline so that we have the months of April and May to build the master schedule for 1,800 plus students. Before the end of school in June, each 8th grade student will meet with their assigned Staples counselor one-on-one. Part of this meeting will be to review the students' 9th grade courses, ensure that everything fits, and resolve any schedule conflicts that may have taken place. We really enjoy being able to introduce ourselves and spend a little time getting to know our students before they leave 8th grade, and it provides us with an opportunity just to make sure that they're good to go before the end of the school year. Since we build the master schedule primarily based on student requests each year, in most cases students will receive all of the requests that they have, and certainly when it comes to their academic choices in 9th grade. For electives, some students may be placed into alternate choices because of either the popularity of the course and limited space, or if there's a conflict between two courses meeting during the same period, or if not enough students are interested in a course for it to run. This is what counselors will be working with students to resolve when we meet with them individually in June. Then in August, before the start of school, students will be able to view their full schedule in PowerSchool, including not just the courses they're scheduled for, but the teachers, the class periods, and the room assignments. It's expected at that point that schedules will not change, including no changes to elective courses. And that therefore students and families at this point really must put considerable thought into the choices that are made during the course selection window throughout February and March, and really commit to following through on those requested courses for this school year. So now I'm going to introduce Tom Brown, who's going to speak with you a little bit about what those 9th grade courses look like.
Hello, I'm Tom Brown. So the 9th grade courses is actually, in a lot of ways, pretty straightforward. So that's good news for you. All 9th graders are going to take English 9. They're going to choose a math course. That's a full year math course. For science, they have a choice of biology or accelerated science. Global themes is a social studies class. World language, they can choose to start with a fresh language, or they can continue whatever they've done in the middle school. They all have to take health. When you go on to pre-registration, you'll see that PE and health is already written in. They don't have a choice about that one. And then they have 2 periods left over. We in the guidance department very much encourage freshmen to have a free period because we think it's an important time for them to spend time with their friends, to talk to their counselors, to go meet with their teachers, and to have that independence that's part of the high school experience. But 2 free periods they cannot have. So that's where the electives come into play. And we have a lot of really fun, really interesting electives at the high school. So I encourage you to work with your students and talk to them about what their interests are. I think one of the things that incoming freshmen have a problem with is that they have this tendency to say, well, I can't do drawing. I've never done that before. And so I always tell them that's what classes are for. They're for teachers to teach you how to do things that you've not done previously. And then they're like, oh yeah. So it's important to encourage them to take some chances, take some risks. And the electives courses are really good places to go beyond their normal tendencies and try some new things. So the things that you do have some conversations about between those is going to be the levels of the courses. And this is where a lot of students and families kind of have to talk through and work with their counselors and have a real conversation about the workload and the expectations throughout their freshman experience. So we have multiple levels of courses among each of the different subject areas, but each subject area does not have every level available, if that makes any sense. So, for example, in biology, there's an A level, a B level, and an honors level. But if you were to go to, say, algebra, there's an honors level, A level, B level, and a C level. Whereas global themes, is there a B level now? No, there's only honors and A level in global themes. So it depends on the subject area, which is why later tonight, when you're meeting with each of the departments, you'll be able to learn more about those specific subject areas. What we encourage you to consider most in speaking with your son or daughter is that their course load is just one piece of the puzzle, as Mr. D'Amico talked about earlier. There's a lot of other things that are going on in their lives between friends. Oh, Mr. Capozzi is going to talk about that. Be careful about picking too many hard classes and make sure that you have a good balanced schedule. And also with overrides, as Mr. Plunkett mentioned earlier, be careful not to do too many overrides, if any at all. Your teachers make great recommendations. We find that the students that follow their teachers' recommendations have very happy and successful high school experiences. Thank you, and here comes Vicky Capozzi.
So following Mr. Brown is quite difficult because he's so animated and never looks down. However, I'm going to have to look down at times. So good evening, ladies and gentlemen. For those of you who have been here before, welcome back. And for those of you brand new to our wonderful school, welcome to Staples High School. I'm Victoria Capozzi. With the information just delineated by Mr. Brown, we ask that you think carefully about your child and your child only when considering course selection for grade 9. With your child only in mind, consider the big picture in a few ways. First, remember that teachers make course recommendations for their subject only, not taking into account the course recommendations from other teachers. You and your child hold the responsibility to look at the big picture of the total course load, taking into consideration the academic rigor of each level, your child's co-curricular activities, your child's social life, your family's values and definition of success, as well as their physical and mental health. Next, remember that they are 14 years old, teenagers. Take a moment now and think back. What were you like when you were 14? Where were you? What did your world look like? Were you a perfect, dedicated, diligent student? Did you make mistakes or do things you wished you hadn't? Sure, some of you out there may have received top-tier grades and been behavioral angels, and I bet many of you didn't and weren't. Talk with your children about your own paths. How did you or your spouse arrive at this place in life? What about your friends, your doctor, your lawyer, your electrician, your plumber, and so on? Nobody is born with an advanced degree or a six-figure salary. Believe it or not, the kids, whether they let you know or not, are interested in your stories and our stories, and we should let them know how we arrived where we are today. The journeys are rarely a straight line that we often see parents want their children to be on. They need the adults in their lives to encourage them, to encourage a spirit of overall exploration and growth, not just a drive for a certain GPA. As counselors, we are frequently asked for definitive black and white answers to questions about course levels, and in particular, how many higher level courses does my son and daughter need to get into a, quote, good college? And these questions do start, folks, for us as early as grade 8. Folks, there's nothing black and white about the answer to this question, as each student is unique, and in my humble opinion, every college is a good college, and that is a story for another time. The point being, yes, high school grades do matter. However, what matters is whether or not your child is thriving while learning, not surviving while learning. It is 100% possible to do well in school while having fun. And in order to do so, one must make the conscious effort to choose classes that are appropriately challenging and not overwhelming. In conjunction with what you will learn throughout the rest of this evening, please take time this evening to reflect and decide what is best for your individual child. There's no one right or wrong answer. Every child is different, and counselors at the middle and high school do our best to know your child so we can aid in the course selection process. We can help see the big picture as we, along with the teachers, are the school experts. We are in the business, ladies and gentlemen, of preparing kids for life, not just getting into a college. Please utilize the considerations and questions on the slides above as a guideline for decision making with your son or daughter. And here's some further examples. Pay attention to the number of times your child has been permitted to submit something for extra credit and how much of their grade is made up of this extra credit. Pay attention to the number of times your child has been permitted to hand in late work for full credit. Is your child the one who spends little or no time on homework? If so, I promise you nothing magical is going to happen to make them want to do this homework once they walk through the front doors of Staples High School. New habits take time to establish and ingrain. Encourage them now to complete homework and read for pleasure. Is your child a bundle of nerves about his or her grades? Perhaps you wish to consider scheduling options to limit stress, not create more. How much time is devoted to your child's co-curricular activities? For example, are they in multiple clubs or dedicated to a certain cause? Play an elite sport on a travel team? Dance 6 days per week? Very active in church or temple? They will need time to continue exploring these options. Does your child possess intrinsic motivation to complete tasks without being pestered? Is your child a very concrete, black and white thinker, one who can only see something one way and may argue that it is the only way? Additionally, please consider if your son or daughter seeks out and embraces academic challenges, or if they always or often seek the path of least resistance. When choosing courses with your sons and daughters, please remember this as well. Developmentally, ninth grade students are at the beginning of a period of major brain development. Their brains will develop exponentially over the next 4 years. As a matter of fact, and science, the synapses in their prefrontal cortex, which is the area of the brain responsible for higher order thinking, judgment, problem solving, decision making, complex planning, and impulse control, still have plenty of pruning ahead of them, and that region of their brains won't fully mature until they are 25. Don't expect your ninth grader to be a fully developed mini adult who can manage a hectic life with ease. Their grown-up body doesn't always house a mature mind. Parenting them is not easy, and I'm sorry. It won't always be pretty. At this age, it is their full-time job to develop a sense of their own identity, and the fact that this is subject to change on a whim without notice keeps all of the adults who care for them on our toes. The adolescent social world is complex and of the utmost importance to them, and within their near constant technological connectedness, there is rarely, if ever, a break from it. That is, unless you force that tech break. They are still very young and lack the perspective that their future selves will have. They may not yet have had the experience of needing to figure out how to move forward after a major disappointment or loss. They're completely awash in hormones, and on top of all else, they are sleep deprived. Now, keep in mind that the message internalized in this competitive, achievement-oriented community, not unlike other similar towns, is the misconception that in order to get into a really good college, students must do all of the following. Take the most rigorous courses load possible, including a hearty helping of AP and honors classes, earn A's in all of them, do impactful, life-changing community service work, co-captain several sports, found an original club to demonstrate leadership, develop their musical talent, then find a way to differentiate themselves from all of the other smart, talented kids here at Staples and at comparable schools. Is it any wonder that so many of our students are feeling tired, inadequate, exhausted? Are you feeling it? I do. There is a lot that we in this room cannot control because it is wrapped up in messages and the processes laid out by institutions of higher learning. However, much of our town's internalized anxiety comes from misconceptions around high school and the college admissions process, and it's often exacerbated by businesses that stand to profit from financially from rampant insecurity. Behold, however, put on your capes, because it does not have to be this way. Your child's high school years are important in their own right, not just as a launch pad for college. These 4 years go very quickly and will never ever happen again. When our children are overscheduled, doing all they believe they need to do, they are actually missing out on some crucial personal development that needs to happen right here, right now. We can allow our students the joy of just being kids by taking the lead in believing and trusting your gut and their gut instincts, by loving your child for who they are now, and while finding and keeping your sense of humor while doing it. Allow for their adolescent growth and don't overwhelm them in their freshman year. Choose the just right schedule that challenges but does not overwhelm them. Lastly, trust and believe that all is going to be okay, because we sure do.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Christina Banks. The Westport Public School System recognizes and values that students have different learning styles, needs, and goals. These areas can be achieved through numerous pathways. One of them may be attending Staples, or it could be by attending a public high school in a neighboring town. Could it be possible that there's a more fitting high school for your child? Perhaps your child will thrive in an environment that is more curriculum-focused, applied, or hands-on. For example, at the Academy of Information Technology and Engineering in Stanford, students can study architecture and engineering, biomedical science, business, fine arts, or information technology through student-centered, project-based learning. Perhaps your child may thrive in the agri-science program located at West Hill High School in Stanford while studying animal or plant-related sciences. At the Center of Global Studies located at Brian McMahon in Norwalk, students can obtain an international baccalaureate diploma while learning how to become citizens of a global society. They do so via a hands-on collaborative approach while learning either Arabic, Japanese, or Chinese, as well as the cultures of Asia or the Middle East. At J.M. Wright Tech School in Stanford, through focused, applied, and integrated lessons, your child can engage in real-life problem solving by ways of automotive technology, carpentry, culinary arts, digital media, electrical, facilities management, health technology, information systems, plumbing and heating, or tourism management. For students who feel a passion for performance, they may wish to attend the Regional Center for Arts in Trumbull part-time. Students would attend their core courses at Staples in the morning and at the Regional Center for the Arts in the afternoon. Students can enroll in programs such as video, dance, music, theater, or musical theater. Lastly, maybe your child will thrive at the Sound School in New Haven, which prepares students for colleges, careers, and life in a maritime-focused environment. Aquaculture and marine trades are experienced via extensive exposure to on-the-water and water-related activities and coursework. There is additional information in the program studies about these programs, or if you're interested and this sounds great to you, I recommend that you visit the websites of each school for more detailed information. Each school has their own application and a process, and they're all college preparatory. Westport Public Schools will provide the transportation. Perhaps a visit is in store. Some schools have some upcoming open houses, so you would need to check their websites to see that information. Maybe it's your child who will find the most success and happiness at a high school where learning is focused on a topic that's excited to them and where their keen interest lies. Counselors at the middle school and as well as the high school can answer any further questions if that's something that your child may be interested in. In order to continue to support the 8th graders in their transition to Staples, there will be a transition program in May for 8th graders presented by Harlan Cohen. Harlan is a New York Times best-selling author, nationally syndicated advice columnist, and speaker who has visited and presented at many high schools and at over 400 colleges. He came to Staples last year and spoke to our seniors as well as their parents. He focuses on transition and the notion of being comfortable with the uncomfortable. In addition, he emphasizes the importance of finding your people, places, and patience. We're excited to have him back, and we feel that this will be a great experience for your child. As a follow-up to tonight's presentation, Staples counselors will hold a morning program for 8th grade parents in the spring. This will cover more information about how to support your child academically as well as their emotional and social well-being. Then in June, your children will have an individual meeting with their assigned Staples counselor to be able to review their course requests and answer any individual questions that your children may have, and it's also another way for us to get to know them. In August, all incoming freshmen will be invited to tour the building with student ambassadors. And if you're a family that is new to Westport, welcome. Be sure to go to the Westport Public Schools website and the Parents tab where there'll be a drop down to view student registration information and procedures. The online registration and procedures need to be completed in order for your child and you to register for courses, and which would start on April by meeting with the school counselor. There'll be a new student and parent orientation in August as well that will follow that. They'll be able to take tours of the building. Thank you. And Mr. D'Amico is going to come back up to finish the rest of the presentation.
All right. Well, that's a lot of information to throw at you. But just one more round of applause for the guidance counselors who do just a phenomenal job. One of the challenges of being a teacher, administrator, counselor at a high school like Staples is it's such a phenomenal institution. But keeping in mind, again, as I said at the beginning, that there's no such thing as just one type of path at Staples High School. We're really a public school for almost 1,900 students that happens to be located in Westport, Connecticut. So every individual student is extraordinarily important to us, and we want to make sure that we set each of them up for success. So again, I started with a visual. I'll close with a different one. Everything is so well laid out in the program of studies and all of that, and so you can think it's I know exactly where we're going to end up on June 14th, 2023. None of us have any idea what lies before. I can sympathize with all of you on this because next week at just about this time I will be sitting at Bethel High School, and where Ben D'Amico, the oldest of my 4 boys, will be beginning his high school journey. And as confident as I may seem up here and seem like box number 1, I will be feeling box number 2, just like many of you are sitting here this evening. But I do just want to make sure that all of you understand how much we care about each individual student. Our teachers that you're going to meet tonight are extraordinarily passionate about what they do. They're happy to answer any of the questions that you have, and I encourage you to engage your students in conversation tonight on the ride home, but don't start with what you saw. Ask them what they saw first and get a sense of what they think is going to be special for them about Staples High School. So in just a minute, everybody's going to leave the auditorium. In the programs that you got coming in, you see you have a plethora of different presentations that you can head off to. Each presentation is about 15 minutes. We will have bells tonight, so if you haven't been in the high school in a long time, you'll live as we do every day and be governed by whenever the bell rings. At approximately 8:50 is when the last presentation ends. All of the students will be in this room for their last session. So when your last session ends, you can wait for them out in the auditorium lobby or the main lobby or over by the cafeteria. I'm sure they'll be texting you, and you can feel free to text them at that time, not while you're in presentations. We frown on that sort of behavior while you're in class, and meet up for the ride home. I want to thank every one of you for coming out tonight, and you will also see many of us in the hallways. So if you see any of us tonight, please feel free to ask any question, and welcome to Staples.